My name is Priscilla Hawken Brown. I'm a senior instructional technologist at Rutgers Office of Information Technology. I'm part of the EdTech team that manages the tools you or your instructors use to teach online. In today's session, we'll go over what is an API call and how to set up environments for these API calls. We'll work through constructing a few API calls and running reports. Now, this is just setup, because in the end, we will have some scripts that we can use to import course content into multiple course sites, enrolling teachers or multiple teachers into course sites with invitations, and publishing multiple sites and creating groups, all with the push of a button.
To create these scripts, we will use APIs. An API is just a means for one computer or program to talk to another, and we're lucky because Canvas has a lot of them. So API calls come in multiple flavors, and the Canvas API documentation will tell you which one to use. Later in this video, you'll see I'll make a few mistakes with this. To make these API calls, we will use a free app called Postman. And if you create your account, you can share your API library with other people on your team. During our setup, we are going to use variables. This will allow us to reuse our content. And when we're defining variables in Postman, we're going to denote them with these curly braces. On your keyboard, it should be above the brackets near the return. In addition, we will set up different environments in Postman that correspond to the different environments in Canvas. Wait, how many versions of Canvas are there? Well, there's 3. Production Canvas is the one that you're used to. It is the live version, and it's updated with new releases every 3rd Saturday. On that same Saturday, production data is copied over to the Test Canvas instance. So at most, Test Canvas is 1 month old. On my slides, I've also included the login URLs. Beta is refreshed every week with production data, so at most it is 1 week old. And this is the instance we will use today. So open up Postman, and I am in my workspace on the Environments tab. I'm going to create 3 environments by clicking New, then Environment. And I'll do this 3 times, one for Rutgers Canvas Beta, another for Rutgers Canvas Test. And this allows me to quickly switch between various environments. And our 3rd one is Rutgers Canvas Prod. I will create APIs and test them in beta, and then switch the environment to prod or test. So the first variable, let's define as the base_URL. This is the endpoint that we send our message to Canvas. I do not like to type things out because I want to reduce error. So I have the ruckers.beta.instructure.com URL, and I'm pasting it here. Make sure it copies over to your current value. And let's set up the same variable, base URL, for production, and I'll just edit this URL here, and I will set it up for test as well with the same variable, base URL, and edit the URL to ruckers.test. When we log into Canvas, we use login IDs and passwords. Our API calls will need an access token, which is password and login combined in one. They inherit the permissions of the user. So my access token can do everything, whereas your access token will only allow your API calls to do things that you can do in the user interface. And these API tokens are specific to the environment they were created in. I add expiration dates, and this is to protect Rutgers data, and I encourage you to do that as well. And I should note that their API tokens can be depleted if you make too many calls on a token, but that's like 30,000 lines of data. And for what I foresee you doing, I don't think the limiting power is going to be your computer. To create a token, we can log into Canvas Beta and click Account and then Settings. Scroll down to the Approved Integrations area. As you can see here, I have an old Postman. I'll just create a new one and set the expiration date for later today. And I'll copy and paste this token. So back in Postman, I will call the variable canvas_token and paste it right here. Now, sometimes when I paste a token, a soft return is included, so make sure you remove that. So let's copy this over into our current value and save. Now, I want to use the same variable across all instances in my environments here. So I'll just copy Canvas token and paste it in prod and test, and then save those for each environment. Great. So I've set up all three environments. Before we get into constructing some of our API scripts, let's go over a few best practices. Always cut and paste. This helps reduce errors. And unfortunately, you're going to see me make some errors a little later on. Next, we may need to perform a get call, which means to get information out of Canvas so that we can understand the language of the API call. Remember that the team that made the user interface is different than the team that worked on the API call, so they use different values. And sometimes we need to figure out what they mean. Anytime the word an ID is used, that means the unique value assigned by Canvas. This is often from the URL, a user ID, a section ID, a course ID. These IDs can be retrieved from a provisioning report through the admin interface, and we'll see later where we use those headers from that provisioning report as part of our scripting. So let's build our first API call. We will enroll an instructor or multiple instructors with an invitation. All right, if you do a quick Google search for Canvas REST API, you'll come up with this documentation. Let's click All Resources. In the user interface, I would like to add a person to a course. So let's do a control find on people, and there's only one instance. So that's not the term I need. Well, I'm adding users to a course. Let's search for users. That's way too many to look through. So let's go back to the top and have a look. Accounts could be it, but I know it's not. Let's see, courses. Enrollments. Let's enroll a user. There are two endpoints, one for section, one for course. You should know that Rutgers Canvas enrolls users via section. So we need to use the section endpoint. And that's important for student instructional rating surveys. The teacher must be enrolled in the same section as the student. And the same is true for GradeSync. So we will enroll teachers via the section endpoint. So let's copy that worksheet. And I will paste my endpoint in there. I'm not going to set the environment just yet. Let's review the documentation to see what other items I need to send a user, enroll a user in a course. All right, scrolling through, I don't care about enrollment start and end dates. Required field is the user ID for enrollment. And that is the unique value of the user that is assigned by Canvas. So let's copy this and paste it into our worksheet. Now back over here, we will enroll a teacher. So we definitely need the enrollment type. These are the allowed values right here. And some other values. Oh, this one's deprecated. So if my department uses a custom role, we'll have to find a different way to do that. All right, so we have user ID. Let's grab enrollment type and paste that into our worksheet. Next, let's grab the value teacher enrollment. This is a mixed case, also called camel case, so that's important. That's why we copy and paste. All right, let's go back to our documentation. And I copied over some spaces, and that added extra spaces into our call up in the URL. So let's delete that, clean that up. That will cause errors. All right, we have enrollment type. This one's deprecated. We can't use that. Role ID is important for custom course roles, and that's if your department uses something like peer reviewer, some roles that are not out of the box Canvas. So we can include those in our API call. All right, for those schools that have custom roles in Canvas, we need to find that user ID. So next, we're going to perform a get call to find some values out of Canvas. I'm going to copy the base URL for beta into a new tab and go over to the list enrollment and use this get call to find out some information about myself. Now, I know that my user ID is 35. You can use the value self instead of ID, and it will list your user IDs. I'm user ID 35. I have a designer enrollment. It's a role ID of 6. I actually did not know that. And as I scroll down, I can see that this is the user enrolled in that course for that enrollment. Again, designer role. I'm looking at a browser tab, and I'm using a JSON viewer extension that makes it prettier. If not, it would come over as one long paragraph without spacing. So I can scroll down and check out all these enrollments. I have an observer enrollment. I have a student enrollment. I can see that's a role ID of 3. I'm not seeing teacher enrollment because there's a limit on how much data that can be displayed on a page. This limit is called pagination. Like, they can't show all of Canvas on one page, so we have to use values like previous, view the last. And up here at the top, here's the syntax we need. We want to show more data per page. So I am going to grab this value right here and per page. So I'll just append that to my API call. I think I had an ampersand. Let's check. Let's type ampersand per page equals 3,000. I want to view 3,000 results. Hit enter. Oh, I got an error. So it's not ampersand. Let's just remove that and go with what they said. And run that. Oh, look at that. So I'm viewing 3,000 entries. Let's do a quick find. Control F. Let me see. Teacher. Oh, we got lots. All right. So teacher enrollment is a role ID of 4. So if you have something called course support, maybe you need to find the role ID to enroll course support. I don't remember what that role ID is. All right. Back to our API. All right, we have user ID, we have the type, we have the role ID. Let's see, we need something else to put our enrollment state, active, invited, or inactive. We want to have our teachers be invited, so let's grab that. Oh, made another typo, copy and paste error. Let's add the E. And we will use the invited. Let's just copy that, make sure I don't make another error. Now my user ID is 35, so let's just add that and then review the documentation to see what other things I need. Oh, here it says section ID. So that's important if you have a course site with many sections and you're using the course endpoint, but we're using sections, so we won't need this. I don't care to limit section privileges. Notify, yes. Notifications aren't sent by default. It's Boolean, which means the value is true or false. So enrollment notify, let's paste that in here, and I want that set to true. All right, let's change this to post and figure out where we are going to put the user. Let's see. Oh, here it is. It's scrolling down. Section ID is the Canvas URL value. And let's go into Canvas and find a section ID. Now this is just strictly for testing purposes, to test our API. We won't have to do this when we're doing everything in bulk. All right, so I have a section ID, and let's just paste that into Postman. All right, I think we're ready to go. Let's just save it, and we can call it Enroll Teacher with Invitation. Using section ID. And save. Let's see, let's set the environment to beta and send. Oh, error. Looks like I have an extra slash right here. That doesn't quite make sense. Let's delete. Oh, look at that. I didn't actually send it to my environment and my proper environment. I forgot the variable base URL. So let's type that in with our curly braces, base underscore curly braces. So as you can see, it's now sending to that variable I defined in my environment, ruckers.betainstructure.com. Perfect. Let's hit send. Oh, another error. 401 unauthorized, unauthenticated. Somehow my bearer token, my access token is not getting recognized. Let's see. In beta, it's there, and its save is grayed out, so that means I haven't edited it. And let's go back and check the call. Oh, authorization tab. If we click bearer token, it's actually inheriting the variable Canvas token that I defined in this environment right here, and so it will pull that value, Canvas token. All right, let's hit save, and it's a post call. Everything else looks good. Send. Perfect. I have an ID, which means something happened. My user ID is 35. I've been enrolled as a teacher into this section. So a note about the response statuses. 200 is what you want, but it doesn't always mean you did it correctly. 400 errors mean you did it wrong. As you saw, I had unauthorized, and later we'll see a specified resource does not exist. 500 errors I've rarely seen. It means something's wrong with Canvas. Let's open up Canvas and refresh my page, and there I am. And here is my invitation that I have to accept, the invite to join the class. Perfect. It worked as expected. So now how do we do this in bulk? Well, let's go into our sub account, and we have a lot of courses without teachers. We'll run a provisioning report by clicking settings and clicking reports and find provisioning. We are enrolling via section, so let's pull for the current term, the section CSV, and refresh the page. And now we can download the report. This will open up in Excel. It's just a standard CSV file. All right, remember we are enrolling via Canvas section ID, so we need column A here. Let's just copy the section header. We're going to turn this into a variable because we don't want to have to copy and paste each value here. We're just going to set this as a variable and match it to that spreadsheet. And we'll add our curly braces around it. It's an unresolved variable because it's actually defined outside of Postman. All right, so we have 13 courses. Instead of using the Canvas assigned values, we can actually use the SIS values or the Rutgers assigned values. And we can alter the spreadsheet by adding the category, the SIS underscore category underscore ID for that value. So if I wanted to enroll instead of by 35, my user ID, I would say SIS underscore user underscore ID colon Hawken, or a net ID of a user. And we can do that if we're enrolling into sections and we know the Rutgers assigned section value. We can replace Canvas values for sys values. So this would alter your API calls. In enrollment, instead of using the user ID, which would be a get call for Mind35, I would replace it with sys underscore user underscore Hawken. Or I could enroll instead of into this section, this course ID or section ID, I could use the Rutgers assigned course value. Course coordinator, I'm more likely to know an instructor's net ID. So I'm going to add a new column and call it net underscore ID. And then I will assign values based on the sys ID or the Rutgers assigned ID. So I will assign sys underscore user underscore ID colon Hawken, which is my net ID. Now, if I'm teaching all 13 of the sections, I will just fill this down really fast. If I have another co-instructor, I can copy the section IDs and paste that here, and then just edit my field and type in a user ACSTST21 and copy and paste, and then fill that down. So now when I run this value with this spreadsheet, I'll enroll 2 instructors into a total of 26 sections. All right, let's go back into Postman. We are using the Canvas section ID and the net underscore ID as our variables in our spreadsheets. We are not using the section ID. I could change it to section underscore course underscore ID colon if I knew the format for all of my courses. But I'm pulling this from my report and everything's just right there in my provisioning report. Okay, so let's not edit this data right here and go back into Postman. Let's save my file first. Perfect. All right. So let's change this to curly braces, make it a variable, net underscore ID. Remember, this is defined outside Canvas, so it'll be unresolved. The section ID I took from the spreadsheet already, and let's save this as a new name, Canvas section ID specifically, and we're using variables with net ID. All right. So let's save this. Perfect. All right. So this is our API call, and we're enrolling people with teachers into a Canvas section ID with a role ID of 4, which is a teacher. Okay. Up here at the top is a breadcrumb. Let's step back to our folder called Enrollment APIs. That's how I organize mine. And then you'll find the Run button. Let's click that. This is called Runner, and it lists all the APIs that are in my folder. I'm just going to drag the one I created to the top and uncheck all my other APIs that I've already created. And then I'll point the runner to the file that I just edited. It's a CSV file. Remember, I had 26 sections or 26 enrollments for 13 sections. I'm going to click Save Responses. But you know what? First, let's run a test. Let's run 3. All right, everything else looks good. And let's click Run. All right, it's slowly going through, and I've enrolled. It's ran 3 iterations from that spreadsheet, and I have a status of 200. So let's go into Canvas and see what happened. Let's refresh Canvas. To my home page. All right, look, I'm enrolled in 3 new sections. And if I refresh the admin page, we can see that I'm enrolled in 3 sections in the admin page. Perfect. All right, let's run the full file. All right, I go back to Runner, and I got to redo this. I drag my newest API up to the top and uncheck the rest. Here we go. I point to my file, and then I'm running the 26 enrollments for the 13 sections. I don't necessarily have to add a delay because it's only 26. If you're running thousands and thousands of lines of data, then you might want to add 3 milliseconds, or 5, but I'm only doing 26 lines, so I can just leave it at 0. All right, and we're going to save responses and click Run. All right, so let's view, this is the summary. Let's view results here. And as we see, it's slowly scrolling through, and I'm getting 200s, and it's completing as I scroll down, and now it's done. So in a few clicks, I have just enrolled 13 users, 13 teachers, or completed 13 enrollments with just a click. And let's go back into Canvas to verify that. So I refresh my admin page here. I'll take a sec for beta, and I have 2 teachers for these 13 sections, exactly as I stated in my spreadsheet. Perfect. So this is using the notification with a teacher enrollment of the standard teacher. However, if you have other roles in your sub-account, you can do a get call to find out the role ID. If it's based on teacher enrollment or TA, you can change your values here and just reuse this script to enroll course designers and course support people into your course sites quickly. Our next API is to import course content, and this is useful for importing course content into multiple course sites. All right, let's go and review our Canvas APIs. I know we want to do a copy of something, and it could be course exports. We could make an export or do a content migration. That could be the right API. But I know it's always under course settings. So let's go to the courses API. Copy course content. Perfect. That's the one I want. And we will copy a course. We'll set the source course, and we can choose to copy certain parts of the course or not copy certain parts. So I think this is the API we want. Oh, it's deprecated. It is not. So let's use the Content Migrations API. And this one has more flavors. We are reading through this, and we can do file uploads or not to general workflows. And there's the endpoint for courses, users, and groups. I think this is what we want, but let's scroll through and find out if it has everything we need. So we can do a file upload, migration type, that's good. Oh, let's see, migration type, cartridge, and yep, course copy importer. That is what we need. So let's just copy this and start a new request. Put this in here. We'll remember our base URL variable and paste that here. It's going to pull the course ID as the destination. Let's see what else. Migration type, this is required. So let's paste that here. Here are some descriptions. We can also paste that here. We are going to use the copy course importer. So let's just copy this and paste it as our value. Right, next, let's see, we're not going to do any file attachments, so we don't have to follow that workflow. I am just going to do a simple full course import. So we will need the source course ID. We'll copy that and paste that here. This is going to be a value from Canvas. Let's see, is there anything else I need? I don't want to just pass over copy over question banks or modules and change modules positions. Oh, shifting dates. That's neat. So with shifting dates, dates are in a certain format. It's called ISO 8601. So if we do a little search on date format, we can use this awesome website called Timestamp Converter. If we were doing date shift, we'd need to convert it into this format. So we would know that the start of the term was, say, the day after Martin Luther King, and we would set that with the proper time from like the Canvas settings, and then copy that over. But we're not going to do any date shifting. We're not going to do any selective importing, and that's all of the options. Perfect. So we have the type of import, and we need a source course ID and then a destination. So let's go into Canvas. I have a source course here, and here's my URL. And if you wanted to, you could use the sys value, which is from the sys-id field in the course settings. You name it sys underscore course underscore ID, and then colon, and then the value. Here is my destination course. I'm just going to grab the value from here, from the URL, and paste it here. And this is just a test. Let's save it. Let's set the authorization, because I forgot that last time. We'll set it to bearer token, and the variable in my environment comes over, and we'll save that with a more meaningful name. All right, everything looks good. Everything's saved, so let's hit send. Oh, I have a status 200, but I'm missing a response. So let's go into Canvas and check this out. If I go into the course settings and click import course content, I see nothing is there. No jobs are queued. Well, let's get some more information out of Canvas. All right. They have a list of migration systems. So let's run another get call and just edit this API here. Removing this extra slash, and oh, specified resource does not exist. So let's go into my grab the ID of the destination course and add that into my URL right here. And paste that in and hit enter. All right, so here are the types of migrators that are available. And there's the Canvas cartridge importer. Course copy importer does not require a file type and just requires the source course ID. So everything seems okay. Well, let's check for some trailing and leading spaces. Maybe I have extra spaces. Nothing here, nothing here. You would think I was doing this error on purpose, and I assure you I am not. No spaces, no extra spaces at all. Oh, it's a post call. Let's change that. Let's send it. Perfect. I got an ID back. Let's go back and refresh our call, and look, everything is importing right now because I forgot to make the right call. All right, for doing this in bulk, we'll use a new spreadsheet, and we'll use some values from here. We'll turn the source course ID into a variable in our Postman script, and we will use the Canvas course ID field as our destination course, and we'll set that as a variable that's defined in our spreadsheet, not in our environment. Now, when we're ready, we can post this to beta and then quickly switch our environment by clicking the drop down and sending the call to production. And that's how we can switch from testing to production. All right, so let's finish our spreadsheet. We have a source course, and I'm just going to take 3 course IDs from the provisioning report I ran earlier, and then save this as a new spreadsheet for course migration as a CSV, so it doesn't save. I'm in Postman, and I'm going to give it a more meaningful name with variables. And the environment is set. Let's go into Runner, move this up, and uncheck my other APIs that I have in the same folder. Point it to the file. I'm using 3 iterations. Let's save responses and click Run. Perfect. We have 3 courses. Let's go check Canvas, grabbing the URL here. And there's my sample course. Here's my second course. Let's check that migration, and that's already running. And our third course. Perfect. All of them are running with just a click of a button. With some organization, you can create a spreadsheet where the first 5 lines get content from course 1 and the next 10 lines get content from course 2. My friends in RBHS, let's review how to publish courses with a push of a button. And this is not as automated as Moodle was, but you can do it with a single push of a button so that your course sites get published on the first day of class. So let's review our APIs. We're going to need the Courses API. And let's see. Oh, there's 2 varieties. There's Update a Course and Update Courses. Let's review Update Courses. And this one is a put statement. You need course IDs. Oh, look at this. It uses the accounts endpoint, and that would only be available for admins. So let's use Update a Course API, and we'll just create a new request. In the Canvas UI, we need to set the course home before we can publish a site. So we're going to do all of this in one put call using this endpoint, and we'll just paste this right here. All right, let's review the API. All right, we can update an existing course, their name, licensing, and other items such as the syllabus, allowing wiki comments, that kind of thing. Now this is interesting. So there's offer, which is Boolean, and that's true and false, and then offer down here, which makes the course visible to students. So there's 2 kinds of offer. So we'll just make sure we have this as our endpoint. And if we use offer, that just sets it as published without setting a course homepage. So we're going to use course event. Offer makes it visible to the students. And then these are the allowed values. Oh, and here we're going to use course default view. So that will set our course homepage. Let's grab what the allowed values are and paste that as our description so that we can refer to it later. We can choose any of these. I am going to set it just to feed because it's easier. We need another a course that we're going to change. So let's just grab one from our spreadsheet, and we'll just go ahead and make it a variable for the Canvas course ID. And where is, oh, yes, we need course event. And we'll list that here, and we'll grab the available allowed values. Claim is something, I don't know, but we're going to use offer, which they described as publish in the UI. All right, so we have a course ID in our spreadsheet. That's our variable. Got to add the base URL with the curly braces that we defined in our environment. I'm looking for no trailing spaces, no leading spaces. Let's set the bearer token, and we're going to use the Canvas token defined in our environment. So this looks good. Let's save it with a new name because we are using variables and publishing it. I think our call is ready. We have our Canvas course ID variable defined in our spreadsheet. It's been saved, and let's step back in our breadcrumb and get runner up. Let's point it to our file, a provisioning file I downloaded earlier. All right, remember that this was our enrollment file, so it has 13 enrollments, but only 13 course sites. So we'll change that and we'll run. And oh, I have multiple API calls per iteration. Oh, if you look over in my published course folder, I have 3 API calls, so I forgot to turn off my extra ones. And we can see here that the first one resulted in a bad request, but 0 failed. So I have bad requests. So it's important to check the status and just scroll through the list. But the last call is the one that I'm interested in, and those all have 200. So let's check Canvas. We'll edit the URL. This one's published with the announcement, the feed. Let's go back into our spreadsheet. The second course site, let's go visit that one. And again, it's published with the announcements, and we'll check the last site. Perfect. So we've done all 13 course sites.
So as a Canvas admin, I would save this script and use it every semester. I would pull a new provisioning report from Canvas and just point runner to the new file so that every semester I can run the script to set the Canvas homepage and publish the course for my instructors.
One of the biggest pain points for content migration in Canvas and course setup is the fact that the Canvas course groups do not come over in migration. In this next part, I will show you how to create Canvas group sets with a certain number of groups within the set. I'm not going to get into how to create groups with custom names in one group set. That will take another hour. So here's the Group Categories API, and there's a little note here that says built-in group categories are communities and student organized or imported. I don't necessarily know what that means, so I think I'm going to need some more information out of Canvas. And let's try using the get call to list categories, group categories for a context. And this is the endpoint. So let's just copy that, and we can edit our rutgers.beta.instructure.com URL and paste it right here. And if I remove the extra slash and hit enter, I'm going to get an error. I have another course in beta, and here's the ID. It has a lot of groups and a lot of fake students. So let's edit this URL and add that ID, the course ID, right in the URL, and press enter. All right, so we have a couple, lots of groups demo populated, and that matches here. Here's the do not delete demo populated discussion group. It has an ID, that's the identifier. It has a name. It is a course content type course, so it's a course group. These other ones are course groups. This one's self-sign up with self-sign up enabled. This one is another course group. This self-sign up has been restricted in this course, and one called test. All right, so I think I have all the information I need. I think I'm going to use the courses because you don't need an admin to use this endpoint. And there's a little note down here that says courses only. So to be safe, I'm just going to use this version of the API. Let's grab that and create a new request. It is a post. And let's put our base URL in so I don't get an error later. And let's review the documentation. So name is a required parameter. We'll put that in here. And then we can choose to make the group self-sign up or not. We can just paste it in here, and these are the allowed values. I'll just write that here in the description. Let me get rid of this extra space or line break. And if I don't use the value, I can just uncheck it. Let's see, what else do we need? Group limit, and that is an integer for self-sign-up. Let's see, is there anything else we need? Here it is. Create group count. This number will create the number of groups within a set. I definitely want that, and it's an integer. And if we're going to use self-sign-up, we have to use group limit. So let's just enable that. All right, so let's rearrange so that it makes sense. We create a group, we name it, we create a group. We can toggle these off if we're not doing self-sign-up. We can make notes over here in the description column, but I'm going to create a group that is self-sign-up. And so I'm going to enable it. Most classes I can have 2 students per group. I think the standard is 4 students per group. And let's create 6 groups. A note about names. In the global navigation and in notifications, students will see notifications coming from the group. So let's provide context and not just project group. Let's name it Bio or Genetics 102 or 102, 101 project group. Let's provide context for our students so that they know which project group this notification, the assignment, something is coming from. All right, and we'll do a test into this sandbox course I have with fake students. All right. So this looks good. Let's set our authorization to the bearer token. It's inheriting that from our environment. And let's give it a meaningful name, if I can type. All right, let's send this. All right, everything looks good. We'll hit send. We got an ID back with some values. Self-sign-ups enabled, limit the group to 4, create 6 groups. That looks good. Let's go into our course and check. We hit refresh. We have Genetics 101. Oh, I spelled it wrong. No one's in the audience to let me know that I did. Let's click this and see if we have 6 groups. Perfect, we do. So this API worked great. Let's go ahead and create groups for our course IDs. We're going to use our variable from our spreadsheet and make curly braces Canvas course ID. I'll add a new column here and we'll call it group number, group course, group count. All right, so for the first section, I know they're going to have 24 students. They want 6 groups. Maybe the next one they have more enrollments. They want 8 groups, 10 groups, 12 groups. And then I'll just fill in 6 going down to make it easier. All right, so let's grab this variable and define it in our API call. So we're going to use our curly braces and call it group count because that is defined in our spreadsheet. We'll save this with a meaningful name. And then let's step back in our breadcrumb to runner and click run. Oh, let's turn off my first API call. And we shall point it to our provisioning file that we downloaded earlier and added our group counts. Let's save the responses. Oh, remember I'm only doing 13 sections or 13 course sites, but we'll do 8 in this run. Save a little time. and we'll run the API. So look, we're having 200s here, and let's check in Canvas. Let's pull up our first course site and go to People. We have Project or Genetics 101 project group. Oh, we don't have, so it created the self sign up and it limited to 4 members, but it doesn't have the 6 groups. Let's refresh. Maybe I have to accept because that's student data. Let's go back in here. No. I don't have any groups created. Let's see. Let's go in. Okay, so it should have been 6 groups created. And there, let's check our Postman. All right. We can hover over here and see the URL. I don't see any extra spaces. Let's just look at the URL. Oh, let's change the spelling error while we're here, so we know we've made a difference. I don't see any trailing or leading spaces at all. Let's see, everything looks good to me. Let's clean up our spreadsheet here. All right, so we are using the courses endpoint, and we have a list of groups, but it's kind of separated by a column, so let's just create a new one. Let's copy over these 2 columns into a new spreadsheet file, and we will save it for our groups with the group name here. So back in Postman, we have our group count variable, we have our course ID, we save this request. Oh, yeah, let's save it. We're sending it to beta. Let's step back to runner and turn off the other API call. Let's point it to our new groups CSV. There's 13 iterations. Let's just do 2. All right, and we'll save responses. We'll run that, and we get status 200. So let's check the first 2 course sites. Here's our old, oh, look at that. Here's 6, and this one should have 8. Let's go into our Genetics 101, and we have 8 groups. That worked great. So beta is great. It resets every week. The user interface will be slightly different than production data because that's how Instructure is checking beta, make sure their future changes work. Please remember that our help desk retrieves content if somebody has, oh my God, I messed up my grade book. Help, we go into beta. So avoid touching current term courses. Up the Canvas URLs for our various instances. You'll need to edit them to add login/SAML if you need to log in to check your API calls.
So I hope you found this tutorial helpful on how to review the Canvas APIs, pull GET calls to get more information to kind of understand the technical language in the documentation, and especially how to use Postman to save these scripts so that you can make changes in bulk. As always, you can email help@canvas.rutgers.edu for any assistance, and your emails will find your way to the proper resource. Thank you.